Alright, so today I'm going to be talking to you guys about how to do the research note cards that you will need to complete as you do your research process. The reason why your English teachers have you do research note cards is not for busy work. I'm not going to lie, it does help us see that you are on task and that you are working on your paper. But you really need to think of it as a great tool for you to learn as a way to keep you organized, because what you will do is that you will pull the information that you think you're going to need for your paper from your sources and then synthesize and paraphrase that information and put it on those note cards. This is a really handy way to simply be organized, because it's a lot easier to carry around 25 note cards than it is to carry around 5 heavy books. But it also helps keep you from plagiarizing, because if you go through the process of reading the information, synthesizing and understanding that information, and then paraphrasing it in your own words for your note cards, you are keeping yourself from plagiarizing, because you're not going to copy everything down word for word. And you're also teaching yourself the information. One of the signs of being able to retain information and understand information is having the skill of putting it in your own words. So I'm going to do this with an imaginary source. I pulled some notes from Kenneth Davis's book, Don't Know Much About Mythology. You guys have read excerpts from this. So I'm going to put together a couple note cards on an imaginary research paper about Mesopotamian inventions. And apparently my cards are not going where I want them to. Hold on a second. There we go. I think it will go there now. Okay, sorry about that. Alright, so the way this card is going to be set up, and this is, I'm batting for 1,000. There we go, now we can see it. I'm sorry, you probably got motion sickness moving between those. The way this card is going to be set up is it has 4 parts. Okay, we have the author information, the main point information, the page numbers, and the information itself. Up here in the top right hand corner, you are going to pull the author's last name from your source. If you have more than one author, please put just the first author's name. If you have 2 sources by authors that have the same last name, you need to put the full name. You need to put like last name, comma, first name. If you have a source that has that you have like 2 different sources by the same author, for say like Kenneth C. Davis has written a lot of books, you would put Davis, comma, and then a word from the title of that source, so we know which one you're taking notes on. Up here in the top left corner, you are going to pull whatever main point you are taking notes on. Or the packet will tell you the place on the outline. You may be doing a research project that has 3 or 5 main points. So for this, you should have 3 because that was your first deadline. So I'm gonna, like, for say maybe my paper is about the miraculousness of Mesopotamian culture. So I'm talking about Mesopotamian inventions, okay? You're going to give yourself a little bit of a margin. Please don't use this necessarily as a guidepost. Use maybe like the width of your index finger as your margin, and you're going to put down the page number on which you are taking notes. And then you're going to paraphrase the information. So I pulled from page 122, the Mesopotamians invented the 7-day week, the 60-minute hour, the world's first writing system, the 6-day creation in Genesis, likely influenced by Mesopotamian culture. On page 123, I pulled a direct quote. Be very, very careful how many direct quotes you pull. Your research paper, for our purposes, only has to have 2 direct quotes. So you don't want to overquote anything. You need to paraphrase as much as possible. But when you do quote, please make note you have to have the page number and be sure to put in quotations exactly what it is that you are saying. So I have Mesopotamia was a desirable patch of real estate. The first human settlements were made 10,000 years ago. Okay. So if we have another source that maybe doesn't have an author, for say I found this website, you are going to pull a word from the title itself, like a word or a phrase from the title. And no matter what it is, if it's in quotation marks, it needs to go in quotation marks on your card. If it's italicized or underlined in the case of handwriting, you need to do the same on your note card. So for this one here, we can see I pulled science inventions, put it in quotation marks. I'm still taking notes on this main point here. I pulled a quote. It is likely the Sumer first used the wheel in making pottery in 3500 BC and then used it for their chariots around 3200 BC. And then I have astronomers also charted the stars. You can see I kept the margin here, but there's no page numbers because websites don't have page numbers. So even though I know some of you have found like PDFs or copies of Google Books or things like that, if it has page numbers, you use the page numbers. Be sure that you put those down. This is vital. Not only for making your citations, but also for whenever you want to go back and check something. There may come a point whenever you are drafting your paper and you want to maybe double check what you wrote or you don't understand your handwriting. So you can easily look and see like, oh, hey, that was on page, 123. Some things to consider. You are to fill the card. Do not write on the back of the card. If you fill the card and you are still taking notes on this source, on this main point, I know Prezi, I want to stay on full screen, then you're just going to make a new card. That's all you're going to do, and you're just going to keep filling it. Now, if you happen to still be taking notes from this source and you have a new main point, for say maybe Kenneth C. Davis goes into detail about Mesopotamian art and that's one of my main points, I'm going to make a whole new card and I'm going to change the heading that's on here. Even if I have a new source, like my last one that I just showed you here. You can see here that my main point stayed the same. Dang it, Prezi, I know, honey. Okay. My main point stayed the same, but my source information stayed the same. The only times to change cards are when the card is filled, when you're changing the main point, or when you're changing your source. Okay, so the packet that I gave you does go into detail about this. It tells you step by step and explains all this for you, but I hope this was a good visual for you to follow along. If you have any questions, you guys know where to find me.